Okay guys, so today's video I'm going to be covering 5 essentials for you to become good at running. I've been running for almost 5 years now alongside my strength training, and I would class myself as a good runner now, given my body weight and given the fact that I strength train as well. Obviously running's becoming incredibly popular on social media, and it has been very popular since lockdown when all of the run clubs started. You know, High Rocks has come into the mix as well. There's so many people doing hybrid training now where they're trying to do running and strength training. But to be honest, I don't think there's that many people doing it well successfully. And I don't think there's that many coaches that deliver, proper informational, educational content on actually how to balance running and strength training. So I'm going to be covering mostly running in this video, but this is, filmed and written in the point of view for someone who is also strength training, also working towards improving their body composition, because that's what I do. That's what all the clients that we work with do as well. So I just wanted to give, a little bit of social proof before I get into this. I think it's really important to kind of, show my own stats and stuff like that in case you are new to the channel. So as I said before, I've been balancing running and lifting for 5 years with good success. I would class it now as. These are my current times at the moment. So I've done a 5K in 18:20. I think the first 5K I did was just under 22 minutes. So not a bad starting time, but over, just over 4 years, managed to get it down to 18:20. And to be honest, I wasn't actually training for a proper 5K there. I've never actually done specific speed work for 5K. I've always kind of focused more on like the half marathon distance. But obviously, if you build your aerobic base over time and you get fitter at longer distance stuff, you're also going to get quicker at the shorter stuff too. I've done a 10K in bang on 40 minutes, literally to the second. It doesn't just say 40 there for the sake of it. I think I could probably go a little bit quicker than that as well if it was in a cooler environment, because I live in Dubai. Half marathon in, again, just under 1:30, and then my only and first marathon in 3:22, and I'm looking to go sub 3 hours in January in Dubai. So those are my stats at the moment, and I'll be looking to improve probably the half marathon and the marathon next year over the next few months. So I think the most important thing when you start running is that you need to set a goal. And that doesn't mean you need to set, a marathon, a half marathon goal, but at least understand what you're focusing on at the moment. So that could literally just be you doing a maintenance base building phase at the moment. So building your aerobic base. Let's say you were prepping for a half marathon in the summer. We would recommend a 12-week prep for that. And outside of that, you might do another half marathon for a bit of fun, but you need to spend the majority of the year and the majority of your running mileage in a base building phase where you're building your aerobic base, because the stronger you can get your foundation of fitness, which is your aerobic base, the better ability you are going to have to run quicker and recover between quicker interval sessions and things like that. So the best way to think about it is the stronger your aerobic foundation is, the better you're going to do when you go on to a race prep. And I think a lot of people just jump from race to race, distance to distance, and they never actually do enough building the foundation. So it's almost like a bodybuilder, in their off season, they're spending at least 8 months of the year in a lean gaining phase, gaining a little bit of body fat in order to build as much muscle as possible. And then they might do, a 12 to 16 week physique prep or whatever it is, where they strip it off. But there's not really much, productive work put in that, deficit phase, to use that kind of example. It could be, that goal could be a race prep, for example, a 12-week half marathon, where you're focusing on building your longer runs up, and you're also focusing on some tempo and midweek speed work as well. Obviously, the reason that you would need to set a goal and the reason that it is effective is to keep you focused, because I think a lot of people with running, when they don't have a clear goal, 1 week they'll get bored and they'll do 5 runs, and then the next week things get busy and they do 1 or 2 runs, and there's no consistency maintained over time. Sometimes they pick up injuries because their body isn't used to doing a lot of volume at once, and you don't really end up achieving much. So I think even if your goal is right now just to focus on building your base, I think you need to be focused on something, because it takes a very disciplined person to just show up every single week and clock those miles without knowing why they're actually doing it. So I think that's really important. So with our clients, as I say, if they're not focusing on prepping for a race, we've still got them running year round if that's what they're looking to work towards. As I've said here, otherwise you'll miss runs and you'll end up doing just random training sessions. You'll end up going out and trying to PB your 5K and end up getting shin splints and things like that. Secondly, it goes without saying, you need a structured training routine. You need a rigid structure. Again, this video is shot from the point of view that I'm assuming that you're balancing gym work, strength training alongside your running. So naturally, you're probably going to be training 5, 6, maybe even 7 times a week. And when you're doing that amount of training, you need to be organized. You need to know roughly what you're doing on each day. Obviously, you can move sessions around if you need to to suit your schedule, but you should be trying to, stick to and maintain a rigid structure each week, which I'll go into with an example below. And as I've said here, it goes for your strength training sessions too. So an example of, we would call it a hybrid training split. For example, on Monday, you might do an upper body strength session, Tuesday an easy run, Wednesday a lower body strength session, Thursday a rest day, Friday a full body strength session, Saturday a rest day, Sunday a long run. I think that's a really, really good structure for someone who's got an even split in terms of balancing strength training and running. Because if you don't have that structure there and you're not following a program, as I say, there's going to be some weeks where you've got more free time, you've not got as many socials on, you end up doing loads and loads of training, probably under fueling, maybe overtraining, and then there'll be a week where you maybe do 2 or 3 sessions and you don't really achieve much over the course of 2 or 3 months. So a structured routine is really, really, really important. Nutrition, massively, massively overlooked, and I think it becomes even more, ever more important the more training that you're doing, because you need to fuel properly for your training. Do not restrict or be afraid of carbs. I was literally on a consultation call with a girl who's just signed up with us. She's looking to run a half marathon and strength train. She wants to do 6 sessions a week, and she actually said in the evening she holds back from eating carbs. It's so important to fuel for the amount of training that you're doing, and obviously maintaining a high carbohydrate intake is going to be really, really important to support all the training that you're doing. So I would always recommend a high protein and carb diet and moderate fat. Reason being is we really want to make sure that you're supplying your body with enough protein to recover and build muscle and recover from your running, and also carbohydrates to actually support performance as well and also aid recovery. And a lot of people just simply over consume on fat when it's not needed. And if you have a body composition goal as well, where maybe you're needing to pull back on some calories, it's not an efficient use of calories to have a high amount of fat in your diet, because it means that you can spend less calories on your carbs, which again are your primary energy source. So it's super, super important. So for me at the moment, for example, my current macros around 180 grams of protein, around 320 grams of carbs on a kind of like standard lower effort day where I'm not running and lifting, and then about 75 grams of fat. I try not to go over on fats there because I'll put myself into a surplus, and it means I can't have as many carbs. And what I've said here is consider higher carbs and higher output days, for example, long runs. So sometimes with clients, once they are, I would say, doing more than maybe 12k on the weekend, we obviously need to put more carbs in on those days and maybe even the day before to actually support the performance there. So you can obviously do really well with strength training running by eating the same amount each day. You can, don't get me wrong, but it would be probably more sensible, more optimal to fuel properly and put more carbs and calories on your higher output days. Recovery, again, I think that's very overlooked, and it becomes even more important the more training that you're doing. So you need to do the extra work, you need to focus on your sleep duration and quality. You could spend some extra time in the saunas. I like to try and do that 3 times a week after training sessions. You could look at booking in some deep tissue therapy or even doing that yourself. I do a little bit of foam rolling on my hip flexors because it's tight areas for me, and it just gives you that extra 5% when you're training, give you a bit of extra range of motion, and reduce the stiffness too. And these things will lead to improvements in your performance, and will obviously make you a better runner, and it'll also make your physique look better as well. Like if you do loads and loads of running, your body just looks fatigued, so you need to make sure that you're addressing all this stuff as well. And what I would recommend doing as well, this kind of should have been put in the training section, but take a running recovery week every 4th week. So when you're running, you want to build in volume and intensity for the first 3 weeks, and then pull back in the 4th week. So let's say you were running 25k a week for 3 weeks, you built it up to 30. In a recovery week, you'd probably want to pull it down to 15 to 18k. So you're still running, you're still building fitness, but it's giving your central nervous system a little bit of a break because you're not focusing on speed work, you're focusing on aerobic training, and it gives your body a little bit of a break too. So those are my kind of main 5 take homes from running for 5 years now, and I think a lot of them are overlooked by a lot of people. If you are interested in finding out how to balance running and lifting, and you're interested in finding out more about our coaching service, you can click the link in my bio, apply for our coaching program, and I will be in touch to arrange a consultation call. Alternatively, you can head over to Instagram, Joe_is_fit, and take a look at some of our content there with plenty of client transformations.